Ladies and gentlemen, students of success, there comes a time in every person's life when they are confronted not by external opposition, but by the quiet whispers of their own limitations. These whispers tell you what you can't do, who you won't be, and where you shouldn't go. But I am here to tell you that every limit you feel is a lie dressed as fact, and you possess the greatest tool to shatter them: discipline. Discipline is not punishment, it is not hardship, it is not something to be feared or avoided. Discipline is the internal architecture of all greatness. It is the bridge between vision and victory. It is what separates the dreamer from the achiever, the wishful thinker from the powerful doer. Let's get this straight. No one rises by accident. The tallest mountains of success are climbed with boots laced by discipline. Talent may start you, but only discipline will finish the race. Now, what does it mean to act as you are the best? It is not arrogance. It is not pretense. It is a deep-rooted belief that you have something unique, powerful, and irreplaceable to give to this world. When you act as the best, you elevate your behavior to match the potential within you. Success begins in the mind, long before it shows up in the world. You must carry yourself with the energy of someone destined to do something great because you are. But that destiny will only materialize through repeated, intentional, disciplined action. Discipline is setting a course and holding it even when emotion tells you otherwise. It is waking up early when you'd rather sleep. It is saying no to distraction and yes to purpose. It is building when there is no applause. It is trusting the process when results are still invisible. Here is the truth. Every person you admire, the leaders, the inventors, the visionaries, built their excellence on a foundation of discipline. And when they doubted themselves, they acted as if they were the best until they became it. You must do the same. If you wait to feel confident before you act, you will wait forever. If you wait to feel motivated before you begin, you will lose years. But if you act boldly, consistently, with disciplined intention, your actions will lead your emotions. You don't become the best and then act like it. You act like it until you become it. So I challenge you today. Crush the limits that have confined you, whether they come from your background, your circumstances, or your own inner doubts. And do it not with noise or show, but with the quiet, daily, relentless rhythm of discipline. Be the person who acts as if the goal is already achieved, because that belief, when paired with action, is the beginning of all transformation. Thank you. Discipline is not merely a trait, it is the foundation upon which every towering success is built. It is the quiet force that operates behind the scenes, silently shaping futures, refining characters, and transforming ordinary individuals into masters of their craft. While talent can offer a spark, and inspiration can ignite temporary fire, it is only discipline that sustains the flame. Without discipline, the most gifted minds wander aimlessly, and the most passionate hearts burn out too soon. Success in any meaningful form does not come from a moment of brilliance or a stroke of luck. It comes from a series of deliberate, repeated actions, many of which are unseen, uncelebrated, and even uncomfortable. The world often applauds the performance, the achievement, the breakthrough moment. But what it fails to see is the years of quiet commitment that preceded it. The early mornings when no one was watching, the late nights filled with practice, the repeated failures faced with resilience. All of this is the work of discipline. It is discipline that teaches a person to do what must be done even when motivation has vanished. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done and insists that you do it. It is easy to move forward when you feel inspired. But the true test of your will, the real defining moment of your journey, comes on the days you feel tired, bored, or discouraged, and still show up. Every successful individual you admire, whether in business, art, science, or leadership, has one thing in common. They mastered themselves before they mastered their field, and mastering oneself is the highest form of discipline. It means controlling your thoughts when they want to wander, directing your energy when it wants to disperse, and managing your time when the world demands distraction. This internal management is what ultimately leads to external achievement. People often chase strategies, shortcuts, or secrets to success, but the real secret is simple. Do what others are unwilling to do, consistently and with excellence, even when it's hard. That is discipline. It is the willingness to repeat the basics daily until they become your strength. It is refusing to be ruled by emotion, laziness, or comfort. It is choosing purpose over pleasure, growth over gratification. Discipline also gives you the power of momentum. The first step is the hardest, the second feels unsure, but the third and fourth start to build confidence. As discipline repeats itself, something remarkable begins to happen. Your identity starts to change. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, who finishes what they start, who keeps promises to themselves. That belief becomes the seed of unstoppable personal power. Moreover, discipline frees you. Many people think discipline is restrictive, that it limits enjoyment or spontaneity, but the opposite is true. Discipline provides structure, and within that structure is freedom. Freedom from regret, from chaos, from underperformance. It removes the weight of indecision because a disciplined person doesn't ask if they will do the work. They simply do it, and here lies another truth: discipline compounds. Just like money earns interest over time, disciplined action multiplies in results. Each day you show up builds upon the last. Each repetition sharpens your skills. Each challenge you endure makes the next one easier. And over time, what once seemed impossible becomes natural. You become the kind of person who no longer negotiates with excuses, who acts not based on moods, but based on mission. When you rely on motivation, you're at the mercy of your emotions. When you depend on discipline, you're in control. Discipline becomes your internal compass, pointing you steadily toward your vision, regardless of the weather of your emotions. There is no elevation without foundation. And discipline is the concrete that holds that foundation firm. So if you want to build a life, a career, or a legacy that stands tall through the storms of failure, criticism, or fear, you must first lay the groundwork. That groundwork is discipline. It is not glamorous. It is not loud, but it is unbreakable, and it will carry you further than any burst of motivation ever could. The greatest barriers you will ever face are not the ones placed before you by the world. They are the ones you have accepted in your own mind. Limits, as most people understand them, are not physical. They are psychological. They are stories, ideas, falsehoods disguised as facts. They are conclusions drawn too early or fears nurtured too long. The truth is, most limits are not real. They are illusions reinforced by repetition and belief. And like any illusion, they disappear the moment you choose to challenge them through action. People live in cages without walls, trapped not by circumstances, but by mental boundaries they never question. I'm not good at this. I'm too old to start now. I don't have the resources. These are not statements of fact. They are expressions of a belief system. A belief system often inherited from fear, failure, or the opinions of others. Yet people repeat them over and over until they become internal laws. But no law governs your potential unless you accept it. Your mind is the first battlefield. It's where success is either born or buried. When you tell yourself you can't do something, your brain believes you and begins to work in alignment with that belief. It stops searching for solutions. It stops generating creative ideas. It narrows its focus to support the narrative of limitation. But when you declare, even silently, "I will find a way," everything begins to shift. Your perception expands. Your creativity awakens. Possibilities begin to emerge. The difference is not in your environment. It is in your decision to act beyond the limit. Intentional action is the tool that breaks these invisible chains. Not theory, not endless preparation. Action. When you act, when you move forward in the direction of your fear or uncertainty, you break the illusion's grip. You teach your brain through experience that what once seemed impossible is now within reach. Action doesn't just produce results, it reprograms your self-image. It tells your subconscious that you are not confined by old stories or outdated assumptions. The most powerful truth you can internalize is this: you are not born with limits, you are taught them. You absorb them through education systems that reward conformity, through voices of doubt in childhood, through failures you never learn to reinterpret. But what is learned can be unlearned, and what is believed can be changed. Your limits are not concrete, they are written in chalk. And every time you take bold, disciplined action, you erase them stroke by stroke. There are people who have risen from poverty to prosperity, from illness to vitality, from obscurity to legacy, not because they had more opportunities, but because they refused to let perceived limits define their reality. They acted when it was inconvenient. They persisted when it was painful. They questioned the rules they were told to live by. And in doing so, they proved what most people never dare to test, that our potential is far greater than we think, if only we're willing to confront the edge and take a step beyond it. The problem with most people is not that they aim too high and fail, it's that they aim too low and succeed. They live lives that are comfortable but unfulfilled because they believe their limits were permanent. But comfort is not the same as happiness. Safety is not the same as growth. And the only way to know how far you can go is to keep going when your mind tells you to stop. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the next step. When doubt creeps in, act. When fear whispers, move forward anyway. That movement is what reshapes your identity. With every intentional action you take beyond your comfort zone, you become the kind of person who questions limitations instead of obeying them. And once you begin to challenge those limits consistently, they lose their power over you. Do not wait for permission. Do not ask if you're ready. Do not seek validation from a world that hasn't walked your path. You do not need anyone to confirm your potential. You only need to demonstrate it to yourself through disciplined, focused, and fearless action. Action in spite of fear. Action in the face of doubt. Action that says, I decide what I am capable of. Remember, illusions only survive when left unchallenged. The moment you step beyond what you thought was your boundary, you discover it was never a boundary at all. It was a beginning. One of the greatest misunderstandings about success is the belief that confidence must come first. That you must feel ready, certain, and empowered before you take the leap. Before you start the business, give the speech, write the book, or pursue the goal. But this belief is not only false, it is dangerous. It paralyzes progress and traps people in waiting rooms of inaction. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is the reward for taking action. It comes after, not before. You earn it by doing, not by thinking. Most people wait for a magical moment, a shift in their emotions, a surge of inspiration before they begin. But that moment rarely arrives. They believe that once they feel confident, they'll finally take that step. What they don't realize is that action is what generates the very confidence they are waiting for. When you act, especially when you act in the face of fear or uncertainty, you begin to build a new kind of trust. Not trust in circumstances, not trust in external outcomes, but trust in yourself. And that trust is the seed from which real confidence grows. You cannot think your way into self-belief. You cannot visualize your way into courage unless that vision is backed by movement. Mental rehearsal has its place, but no amount of positive thinking can replace the clarity and transformation that come from doing the thing you fear. Action teaches you more about yourself than contemplation ever will. You learn not by imagining success, but by stepping into the arena and fighting for it, even if your hands are trembling. The mind is designed to protect you. It scans for danger, discomfort, and embarrassment. That's why it often resists action. It prefers the familiar over the uncertain, even when the familiar keeps you small. But once you act, once you override that internal resistance, you signal to your subconscious mind that you are capable, that you are in control, that you are no longer willing to be ruled by hesitation. And the mind adjusts, it learns from your behavior, it begins to rewrite the old narrative that once said, I can't, and replaces it with I can because I have. Confidence is built like muscle. It strengthens through repetition, through friction, through challenge. Every time you do something that scares you, that stretches you, that forces you to show up imperfectly, you add a layer to your confidence. You begin to see yourself differently, not because someone told you were good enough, but because you proved it to yourself through action. And that kind of confidence cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It must be built from the ground up. What most people label as confidence in others is really just evidence of repeated effort. The person who speaks with power has likely stumbled through speeches in the past. The person who leads with certainty has probably made countless decisions in uncertain times. The artist, the athlete, the entrepreneur, all have one thing in common. They acted before they were ready. They showed up scared. They started small, and with every step their self-belief grew. Not because they never failed, but because they refused to stop. If you want to develop confidence, you must stop negotiating with your feelings and start making commitments to action. Don't wait until you're fearless. Move while you're afraid. Fear is not the enemy. Inaction is. Action diminishes fear. It shrinks the monster in your mind, and even when you fail, you gain something priceless, proof that failure isn't fatal. You survive it, you learn from it, and you try again. This is how confidence is forged, through failure, recovery, and persistence. There is power in momentum. The first step is the hardest, but it creates movement. That movement leads to feedback. That feedback leads to learning, and learning leads to mastery. As you continue to act, even in uncertainty, you begin to feel different. Not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You begin to expect more from yourself, to take on more challenges, to pursue bigger goals, and with each new action, your confidence compounds. It becomes a force that carries you, not just through success, but through struggle, rejection, and adversity. Confidence is not arrogance. It is not pretending to be something you're not. It is the quiet certainty that comes from keeping promises to yourself. It is the inner knowing that no matter what, you will show up. That you will figure it out, that you will find a way, and that knowing is only developed through disciplined, deliberate action. So if you want to be confident, don't wait to feel ready. Act as if you already are, and let your actions build the belief that your mind has yet to accept. Everything begins in the mind. Every invention, every breakthrough, every act of greatness that has ever shaped the world. Success, long before it becomes a reality, first takes root as a belief. What you think, you become. What you consistently believe about yourself and your future silently steers every decision you make, every risk you take, and every challenge you endure. The mind is the origin of all achievement, and those who cultivate a mindset of excellence will inevitably rise, not because circumstances were easier for them, but because their internal world was stronger than the external resistance. Before anyone believed in you, before any audience applauded, before any results were visible, there was only your mindset, and that is where success must be born. It's not about pretending or putting on a mask of confidence. It's about building a mental standard so high that you refuse to operate beneath it, regardless of who's watching or what the outcome is. When you carry yourself with the mindset of excellence, you don't wait for permission to rise. You assume the position before the results appear. You behave as someone worthy of success because you've already decided that you are. The world reflects who you believe you are. If you see yourself as average, unworthy, or unready, you will subconsciously behave in ways that prove that belief right. You will speak with hesitation, act with doubt, and settle for less than you're capable of. But when you elevate your self-concept, when you see yourself as a disciplined, powerful, and focused individual, you begin to act accordingly, and those actions, repeated over time, reinforce your new identity. The mind commands, the body follows. Most people live backward. They wait for evidence of success before they adopt the identity of a successful person. They wait for the world to validate them before they feel confident. But the people who rise to the top understand the truth. The world does not reward who you are. It rewards who you believe you are and how you carry that belief through your actions. If you want the world to treat you like someone of value, treat yourself that way first. Don't wait until the external catches up. Lead with the internal. This is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. When your mindset is aligned with excellence, you begin to set higher standards for everything you do. You no longer tolerate laziness in your work, distractions in your schedule, or negativity in your environment. You begin to guard your time and energy. You pursue growth relentlessly. You no longer make choices based on comfort. You make them based on vision. This shift, though invisible at first, creates visible outcomes in time, and those outcomes are simply a reflection of the mental roots you've planted. Think of the people who seem to radiate leadership, purpose, or power. That energy is not a performance. It's the natural result of someone who has already decided in their mind who they are. That decision is what determines their posture, their tone, their urgency, and their resilience. Success is not a surprise to them. It's an expectation, not because they are entitled, but because they have trained their mind to lead the way. They don't need external rewards to feel internally worthy. You must begin to embody the future you want before it shows up. Speak with the clarity of someone who knows their value. Walk with the presence of someone who knows where they're going. Think with the discipline of someone who has already succeeded. This mental positioning is what moves you forward when results are still invisible. It becomes your compass when challenges arise, and it is what separates the committed from the curious. The mind, once trained, becomes your most loyal servant. But if left unmanaged, it becomes your greatest enemy. It will sabotage your efforts with doubt, comparison, and fear. That's why your mindset is not something to be left to chance. It must be intentionally shaped. And you shape it by feeding it the right beliefs, reinforcing those beliefs through action, and refusing to entertain thoughts that contradict your highest potential. When you carry yourself with the mindset of excellence, you become someone who doesn't need to prove anything. They simply are. The world eventually sees the excellence that was first born in silence, behind closed doors when no one was looking. The victory becomes public, but the mindset that built it is always private. The way you see yourself in your mind sets the tone for every result that will follow. If you want to rise, raise your inner standard first. The world has no choice but to follow. Every action you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, these votes accumulate and form the foundation of your identity. Not what you say you are, not what you hope to be, but what you repeatedly do. This is the invisible architecture of greatness. Discipline, repeated daily, sculpts the self. And while the world may only see the final product, it is the hidden rhythm of consistent effort that defines who you really are. Your habits are the bricks with which your future is built, and every moment you choose discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, and effort over ease, you are casting another vote for the best version of yourself. Most people are unaware that they are constantly creating themselves through their habits. Every small choice, no matter how insignificant it seems, contributes to the story you are writing about yourself. Wake up early and you tell yourself you're committed. Skip the workout and you tell yourself comfort wins. Read a chapter and you affirm you are a learner. Scroll endlessly on your phone and you condition yourself to escape rather than build. In this quiet daily process, your character is either fortified or fractured, and the difference lies in your willingness to act with discipline. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And those systems are built from your habits. A single act of excellence doesn't create greatness. Greatness is the cumulative result of thousands of disciplined actions, many of which seem ordinary in the moment. The way you do the small things determines how you handle the big things. Excellence is not reserved for grand gestures. It is developed through unseen routines maintained in silence and proven when the spotlight is far away. People often chase big breakthroughs. They want massive change, immediate results, and visible transformation. But the truth is, nothing meaningful is built overnight. Your identity as a high performer, a focused leader, a disciplined achiever, these are not things you're born with. They are things you earn through your behavior. The best version of yourself is not found, it is forged, and the tool is repetition. Every time you do the hard thing, the necessary thing, the thing you could have skipped, you reinforce the identity of someone who is disciplined, reliable, and capable. Habits are not just about productivity, they are about power. The power to choose who you are rather than be defined by moods, distractions, or circumstances. The individual who disciplines themselves creates freedom, freedom from regret, from inconsistency, from mediocrity. It is not the dramatic change that builds the strongest identity, but the daily decision to rise above the average. Those who embrace the grind of daily discipline eventually become unrecognizable to their former selves. not because they stumbled upon luck, but because they mastered the process. Your habits also become your reputation, not just in the eyes of others, but in your own. When you make a promise to yourself and keep it, your self-trust grows. When you skip it, that trust erodes. Identity is built on integrity. Do you do what you said you would, even when it's difficult, inconvenient, or unrewarded in the moment? This is the test that reveals your character, and it's a test that habits make or break. Success is not a switch you flip. It is a system you follow. A disciplined person is not born. They are created through intentional routines that align with their values and goals. If you act with focus, you become focused. If you act with courage, you become courageous. If you act with discipline, you become disciplined. The habits you repeat are the proof of the person you are choosing to become. Nothing more, nothing less. There is no limit to how far you can go when your habits are aligned with your vision. While others wait for motivation, you build momentum. While others seek inspiration, you create identity. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is not bridged by hope. It is crossed by habit. The best version of you is not waiting in the distance. It is built in the present, crafted with every disciplined act you repeat until it becomes second nature. Your future is not shaped in a day, but it is shaped daily. And every habit you form is a step toward or away from that future. Choose carefully, repeat intentionally. Let your disciplined habits speak for you, louder than your words ever could. In the end, greatness is not handed down. It is earned through disciplined thought, intentional action, and an unwavering belief in what you can become. Limits are not real until you accept them, and confidence is not a gift. It is a reward earned through bold, repeated steps forward. The world may not yet see the best version of you, but you must walk, think, and act as if you already are that person. Because when your habits align with your vision, when your mindset is set to excellence, and when your actions speak louder than your fears, you become unstoppable. Do not wait for the world to crown you before you carry yourself like a champion. Begin now. Crush your limits, command your discipline, and live each day as the architect of your identity. Act not because you feel ready, but because you've decided to be. Act as though you are the best, and with time, discipline, and persistence, the world will catch up to your belief.